everyone. Welcome to ThetaTalks. My name is Maisha Chulani, and I will be joined by Sanaiyah, Gurnamal, in a little bit. Today's topic is about sensitivity. We have clients or, just exposed to people who may feel or have heard that, they're being too sensitive, or that idea of, is it about needing to kind of bring down their emotions and feelings, or even issues with clients who may feel that they're too sensitive and are not able to assimilate to the environment around them.
Okay.
So I didn't really go much into the topic, just introducing the idea, because I think this word and this topic can really go through many different levels.
Okay.
Right? The idea of sensitivity could be related to, I've had clients who are like, I can't really hang out with a lot of people because it just affects me. I just feel so, other people's energy just affects me, that kind of sensitivity. I have people like that's sensitive to noise, even like I mentioned, surroundings, having a lot of people around them. So there's this kind of sensitivity. Then, of course, there is, the empathic kind, which is the type of sensitivity that you can feel what another person is actually feeling, right? So this topic can go, and I'm sure it'll go through different levels in terms of sensitivity. So I'm pretty excited about it because it's going to uncover many different aspects. What do you want to start off with?
I mean, I can relate to sensitivity. I find places where the noise is too loud is too much for me. I've had, situations where I sit next to people and they're just like talking nonstop, and that's too much for me. Like, it's just too much energy. I felt other people's emotions, and so I think this is something we can all relate to.
Yeah.
Right?
And when you say that, is it the feeling that you feel? I mean, to some people it's draining, right? To some people, they cannot focus or think, or, it's just, or they need to go within. Like, what do you feel when you are surrounded by this?
Like too much noise, too much I think I feel overwhelmed by people's frantic, loud, panicked kind of. I feel overwhelmed by all of that.
Yeah.
And when, like, I don't normally have a problem with music, but like if music is like super loud,
it's paired with different things.
It's very like there's a hard bass and it's really loud, and it feels like it's too much for my nervous system. I guess also like it depends on the time of day. Like in the evenings, I just want to I want things to, kind of start to calm down, and my nervous system is trained for that. But then my kids at dinner will start playing like some crazy kind of music. And at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, you guys, we need to this needs to be a calm, quiet space, not a place where we start playing like this kind of crazy, music that is going to drive me up.
But you were not always like this. I think this is something that we can also, an individual develops this sensitivity. So it's not like you're born. There are some instances where, through life, you kind of become more sensitive. Don't you think?
I agree with that. I remember when I was first taking client sessions. And by the way, Maish, there's a lot of, there's some background feedback where things are just, there's like some sound of
mine?
things. Yeah. Can you check?
Okay, let me take out my headphones and see if it's better.
It's like a scratchy sound, and I know.
Is this better?
We'll check.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit.
Yeah, we'll check. So basically, like when I was a new healer, one thing I remember is in the beginning, whenever my clients had a pain in their body, I would feel it. Maybe because I was new and I also needed some kind of indication to tell me where to, where they needed support or help. And I remember in the beginning, I would feel it. Like, so if my client came in with like back pain, as soon as they walked into my healing room, I would get back pain. Or, if they had something going on in their stomach, I would feel the discomfort. And I remember being like, this is not a good thing, because I don't want to feel pain every time I have to work on my client. And
Because you
I
can't
had to do
focus then. No, it's
no,
not even
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
But a lot of healers have that ability to pick up other people's like pains and aches and so on, simply because they're empaths, and they can pick those up psychically in their own body, right? And so I had to essentially do a healing on myself to train my brain that I didn't need to be notified of what was
That
going on
way.
with my
That
client in
way.
that way.
Yeah.
It was enough for me to go do a scan and be told they have a problem in the stomach, or they have a problem, they're carrying too much weight on their shoulders, emotional weight. So it was enough for me to just hear it, but I had to train my body and my brain not to take in too much,
Yeah.
not to take in all of that. It was not necessary. And a lot of us have been carrying these things and have these gifts and abilities from other times and places, but we don't know how to turn it off or, do it differently. And so that's one of the things I know Theta Healing really helped me with. And I also find that I'm definitely more sensitive when I'm in a healing space, then I really need quiet. I need like just a space where I can do my healing that has no distractions or, no loud noises and things like that. So that's really important to me. And another thing that I've noticed with clients is when people have a lot going on mentally, their emotional bandwidth and their energetic bandwidth becomes limited. So what I'm saying in simpler terms, like when someone is already stressed or anxious about things, and then you add loud music, or you add, too many people, right, in the space, they feel uncomfortable, right? Because their bandwidth is like, they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the space or the capacity to handle more, because there's so much going on in their head with the anxiety and
And
stress.
I think what's really interesting, and just tying into what you're saying, is I read somewhere that that's exactly what happens when we are doom scrolling or YouTube, or like, we're going through our Instagram and just, scrolling up. That's what tends to happen, right? It overrides our nervous system, and then it's so hard to come down, which is why kids, once they're on, they just cannot stop, right? They're so wired.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that dopamine button keeps getting hit
Yeah.
with everything we see as we scroll. So it does get overwhelming and it gets exhausting. So I'm sure, again, some of you listening in have experienced this, that you're scrolling and it's like, suddenly it's like 45 minutes later and you're exhausted
Yeah.
because your brain was just absorbing all of these
Mm.
things that you were scrolling through. And not only that, the light from your LED screen
Yeah.
is also causing
And so,
your body and mind to fade.
so it has really gotten to a place where some people, we're all born with gifts of, intuition and gifts of being, into, like, if somebody comes to the room and then you kind of know that they had an off day, or that, when you're with your husband or other people. But then as we go on in terms of the environment and life and Instagram and YouTube and all of these things, there is an artificial element to the environment which actually makes us even more sensitive, right? But not in a good way. So there is a good sensitivity, which is more in tune and, more
Intuition
about
and
being intuition. And then there's this other type of sensitivity where you're not able to regulate, versus, and that may kind of get into something more problematic,
yeah, I
right?
love what you're saying. I love what you're saying. Basically, you're breaking down sensitivity into
Mhm.
like the good things we're sensitive to, like
Yeah.
people's emotions, to our intuition and hearing that inner voice or guidance, which is a good sensitivity to have. And even being sensitive to what's going on for someone you love is a good sensitivity, right?
Yes.
It's like you could pick up, like I was just telling my client today that my kids will come home from school and I'll just, how was school, etc., etc. And I could be really busy doing a bunch of things, but if I hear in their voice
Oh, yeah.
just one note
Mm,
off,
mm, mm.
like it could be so subtle, it could be so quick, but if I hear just one little thing that's off, my brain will just like switch off everything else and zone in on them and be like, okay, tell me what happened. What happened today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that sensitivity to what's going on with my children, I think is like a superpower,
Mm.
because I might be doing, a million things, but I will know when I'm needed and I will drop everything to be there for them because I know they need it at that moment,
Right.
which I think is more important than someone who's present all the time, but isn't catching
Tuned
those
off.
little
Yeah.
tiny things. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
as a mom who runs businesses and is working all the time, I have to rely on these skills of being able to be there at the right moment or
Yeah.
give them what they need, because I can't be there all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, I'm not saying that those who can be there all the time, that's not good. I mean, that's wonderful, but I can't be there. So I have these, intuitive gifts that allow me to really pick up exactly what's going on when something's happening.
And I think when you do that, for example, with your kids, you're actually teaching them that what they're feeling is valid,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
in turn, you're teaching them that, it's not too sensitive that you're feeling that way, or
Mm-hmm.
it's not all in your head, or, it's also a great learning opportunity for our children to acknowledge and understand, because a lot of us grew up with, oh, just deal with it, right? Or, not being able to understand that it's okay to feel certain emotions and feelings. You're just being too sensitive, were the words that was said to us, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you are opening up that conversation and you're actually acknowledging, what you're feeling, whatever it was, it's valid, right? Versus ignoring it or just
Yeah.
suppressing it, right?
So what we kind of moved from is this idea that as individuals, we can be sensitive to what people we love are going through simply by being able to hear in their voice or being able to sense in their energy or body language that something's off. So
Yeah.
there's that good sensitivity. And now we're also talking about helping our children or the people we love recognize
And
that
develop. Yeah.
yeah, and that being sensitive to other people's emotions or to feel things or to understand how they feel is not a bad thing either, because
Correct.
again, now we're talking about all the good ways being sensitive. um you know it, it Let me reframe the question. Now we're talking about how being sensitive can be a good thing, can be
Yes.
something that's an asset, can be something that helps us in our life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, so we've spoken a little bit about these two areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel that we need to tackle sensitivity that was, we've kind of talked about how it was developed through environment, right? But it could be that there are situations that we've experienced as children or growing up, which has made us more sensitive towards
Okay.
things because of our experiences, right? So now we're a little bit more sensitive because we need to be, right? Because maybe it keeps us safe or because we've gone through things in our childhood, right?
So you're talking about triggers now. So the
Yeah, or
how
trauma,
sense yeah,
right?
sensitivity shows up in terms of what we get triggered by, how we react to things,
Yeah.
how we, and this is kind of the more true word of sensitive. It's like when someone says
Mm,
you're too sensitive about the situation, but really it's not that you're it's not a black and white that you're too sensitive. It's
yeah.
just that that situation has turned out badly several times for you before, that when it's showing signs of occurring again or appearing again, your, defense systems
Guards are
kind of
up.
like
Yeah.
guard.
We're like,
Yeah. And
wait a
it's like,
minute.
okay, watch out, be careful. This didn't end well the last time.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So then there is sensitivity that comes in through that angle. And that is something that you may want to, or, in terms of theta healing, want to fine tune, right? And to work on, right? Because you don't want to, let's say it's a relationship thing. And anytime you get into a relationship, your guards are up, and so you are not able to be your authentic self then, and that person will never see that, and so things may never progress, right? So these are situations where um, sensitivity that's triggered through trauma or through experiences may need to be looked at and fine-tuned as well, so that we want to keep the ones that we were talking about, compassion
The
and
good sensitivity.
empathy and that feeling of connection and the good things, and converting that trauma to something where I can handle this now, or I know when to be sensitive. I think discernment is also a very good way to look at things, in terms of I know when to be more sensitive and intuitive, and I know when it's coming from fear or coming from a negative space, right?
Something unhealed.
Unhealed, yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things I also find very helpful in these kind of situations is the idea of responding to situations instead of reacting to them.
Mm.
So we often tend to just react from our emotions or our sensitivities,
Mm.
or and so we just either lash out, or we blurt out things, or we like get defensive. And this is all of these are different reactions to people, situations, events, and so on. But if we were to be a little bit more intentional, we could choose how we want to respond to that situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, we need to make sure that we are acting from a sensitivity that is a strength, and that allows us to choose how to respond. So
Yeah.
what I mean is, if I am getting triggered by a situation, then I'm being overly sensitive to that situation because of my history with that situation, then I'm not going to be able to respond. I will react to that situation.
Yeah.
But if I am picking up something's off with my child today, he just doesn't sound like himself, right? Then my sensitivity to his voice or his energy allows me to now start asking very intentional questions. Like, okay, so was there anything different that happened today? And start intentionally
Yeah.
responding to what I'm picking up, and then choosing how I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
And
So it
I
allows
think,
you to
when
respond.
you're describing, right, being responsive versus being reactive, the word that comes to mind is being in control versus allowing the situation to control you,
Yeah, that makes
right?
sense too.
So if you are in a state of I can control how I react or I feel in this situation, right? Then it's coming from a space of, at least I get to choose my reaction, versus, reacting, you don't get to choose, you just react.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so these are a few areas with sensitivity that we've explored. Are there any other aspects to things? I mean, I know, like, nowadays parents say, my kids are more sensitive, or these kids nowadays are or tend to be more sensitive, right?
Yeah,
Have you heard that as well?
I have heard that a lot.
And you have quite kids that are also that way, right? Very sensitive,
Yeah.
right? So what do you think it is? Is it like the time that they're born in? Is it like, where do you think that this comes from?
I am going to be a little woo-woo
Mm,
about this.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say that what I know from a spiritual perspective is the children being born in this generation and even the generation above them, they are more psychic than we've ever been.
Yeah.
And as a result, many of these kids are sensitive,
Mm.
they're empaths, and they can't understand what they are feeling because they don't know the difference between their own feelings and other people's feelings. So they tend to get dysregulated very fast, but they also feel other people's pain more deeply.
Yeah.
And they feel emotions deeply. And then you add to that this whole digital media culture,
Mm.
and it is putting the pressure on
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? And so these already psychic children and sensitive children now are being negatively influenced, programmed, affected by screens, screen
Yeah.
time and screens. And I think it's just this is what is causing a lot of kids to be diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
I think a lot of children are having behavioral problems as a result. You're having children who are dealing with anxiety and depression at a very young age.
Mm.
So I think what is happening is it's a very unique situation. It's almost a perfect storm that we're watching,
Mm.
right? Which is why it becomes more and more important today to be able to help these kids process their emotions, understand their intuition, know the difference between their feelings and other people's feelings, and learn how to turn their sensitivity into a strength.
A gift. Yeah.
And not,
Absolutely.
yeah, a gift, a strength, like a superpower, the way
Mm.
I do, rather than getting overwhelmed by it,
But see,
right? So,
you are at this uh, point in your life where you have learned the tools and you have mastered it yourself.
yeah.
So, you know, it is very important for number one, for individuals who feel, called to understand that, you need to first work on understanding your own sensitivity, your own gifts, acknowledging it and opening yourself up to it. Then you're going to be able to help your children because you know and understand yourself versus this generation, what is it, I don't know, and getting into that sort of chaotic energy, right? So if more people would understand themselves and their intuitive gifts and abilities and learn how to regulate it,
Mm.
right, which is what we talked about with the reaction and response thing, then it would make it easier for them to be able to empower their own children to do that. And I think from that space, there's a lot of the word empathy that we use towards our children and compassion versus there's something wrong with them, right? Or that feeling. And you're able to actually see them for who they are, which is very special children who are here to do very special things versus that there's something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so beautifully said, Maish. I think that we can only help those when we are able to help ourselves and have the understanding that
Yeah.
can, help our children or the people we love. So I absolutely agree with that. I think what I want to almost wrap this discussion, this conversation today up with is the idea that you're not too sensitive ever. But if you are sensitive about something, there's some kind of unhealed, hidden, pain or wound there that does need healing. If you are sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions, or you're sensitive to energy or sound, again, this could be all part of your intuitive gifts. And what I would like to invite you to do is to explore these gifts and to allow your sensitivity to become something that is really going to help you in your life, right? And don't let anyone tell you that there's something wrong with you, that you're too sensitive, or that, you know, it's weak to show your feelings or have feelings or emotions. Like I really want to make sure you understand that most of us are very sensitive individuals. I am a super sensitive person. You know, I've always known I'm sensitive. As a child, I would cry in the saddest of movies and realize that that's actually because I'm an empath and I feel emotions deeply. And it makes me really good at healing to be able to pick up other people's feelings, right? To be able to understand what's going on with them. And yes, you know, I can't be in crowded, smoky places with really loud music all the time. I can if I'm mentally prepared, but I can't do it all the time. But that's just me learning to honor what my body likes and enjoys. Nothing wrong with that. And if I do find myself reacting to things in a way that feels like I'm being a little too sensitive, then I know there's some healing work to do there.
Yeah.
So that's how I'd like to kind of explain how I see sensitivity.
And I think you've also said it really well, because you see it as a big picture and you see it very clearly. Now, this is where this goes, and this is where I can say no, and this is where I know this is what could potentially happen to me if I go, but if I do attend, I need to, but this is what I can do to kind of remove that heaviness from that, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to see this, right, is also very important. And so please do book an emotional breakthrough session so that you can also recognize and understand what your gifts are. So let me pick our Richard cards.
What is it today? The suspense.
Harmony. Nice.
Ooh.
And it's a beautiful image.
Oh, gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Harmony.
So what's coming to me is that idea of accepting and loving all these aspects of ourselves, right? Rather than judging
Beautiful.
whether I'm too sensitive, I'm too this, or I'm too that, right? And understanding that that's just part of who we are, and we can love those aspects as well, right? And be in harmony with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also our sensitivity is a way for us to pick out when something is off, whether with someone else or with our own selves. And our goal is always to be in harmony with ourselves. And that sensitivity allows us to scan for danger, for threats, you know, to see when we're out of alignment. It allows us to make better choices, navigate our life better. So it's something we really need. If we didn't have sensitivity, we wouldn't be able to maintain harmony in our lives. Yeah. So that's what comes in.
Awesome. So I will catch you next week then.
Yes. I had an idea today, actually, Maisha, and I feel like, and I'd love to hear what our listeners have to say. That's why I'm floating the idea at the end of today's Theta Talk. Is I almost feel like what people really want to hear about is how theta healing has worked for other people, how it's helped them. Because I guess, like, people look at you and me and they know this is what we do all the time, and this is what we love, and this is what we believe in. But and obviously we are walking examples of theta healing and how it's helped us. But I think what would be really helpful is for people to see how it's helped clients and students. And I wonder if that is something people want to hear about. Is, you know, do you want, like, because I noticed I did my call with Anna last week. So I was doing Theta Talks because you were away, or you were busy.
I heard that episode, yeah.
Right? And what was really interesting is I noticed there were a lot of comments on Anna's journey, because she was a student. Like, a lot of people could, like, relate to her experiences. So I'm wondering, so for those of you who are on live and those of you who are watching the replay of this on the feed, you know, let us know. We've been doing Theta Talks for a while now, Maisha and I, and it's usually the two of us. Sometimes we have other guests, but there have been times when we have interviewed other Theta healers and students. What did you think about those Theta Talks? Was that more interesting for you to see how other people, how their journey has been through the world of theta healing, how they have healed or grown using theta healing in their lives? Like, is that something that you would like to hear more about, other people's journey, or do you prefer me and Maisha talking about our experiences? Because you see us almost every Tuesday. So we want to know basically if you're bored of us and whether you want more guests, or whether
Now you put them in a difficult position, because if they say yes, then we want others. That means they're bored of us. So let's. We
let's not
know
go.
you're not bored of us,
Yeah,
but
we know you're
let's
not.
make things more exciting by doing that. I mean, we can even do two people in a segment, and you, me, and we can invite somebody to come in and explore. So it'll be fun
Because I
because it's
remember
like,
I remember Theta Talks in the beginning was
yeah,
always, we were talking to our students and our
yes,
clients and people who had been through the journey, and it was a
yeah.
first-hand account of their healings.
Mm.
And I wonder if, and I think this might be the year of the fire horse energy, because I've noticed, because of the shift, like we moved into the year of the fire horse from the year of the snake. And so we moved from letting go and shedding into this energy of momentum and movement, and a lot more like action in our lives. And I'm noticing a lot of changes coming into my mind, not just here with Theta Talks, but across the board in my work, is this feeling of I need to change it, I need to switch it up, I need to like do something different. And that's probably what is inviting me to float this idea. But let us know, you guys. Are you feeling like you want to hear more from people who are going through this journey, or are you more comfortable, hearing Maisha and I's perspective on these topics? So let us know what you like.
Okay,
All
see you
right.
guys. Look forward to feedback.
Bye.